Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Sports Timeout. I'm Anthony Polidano. In today's show, Kevin Lozon of The Source will be by to talk about the Fall Player of the Year award winners in football, volleyball, and boys soccer. But first, we start out with highlights from the volleyball regionals. Now, the Stallions got a big bump heading into the regional semifinal match against Port Huron Northern as they finally got some long-deserved respect. Heading into the regionals, the Stallions actually made the state's top 10 rankings as they came into the regionals ranked as the number 9 team in the state. Would it pay off with the regional title? Well, let's look and see. 3 MAC red teams in the regionals and 1 MAC blue team. Your Stallions pick up the action in Game 1 against the first MAC red opponent, Port Huron Northern. Kate Chopak with the ace. Stallions up 6-2. Then Sam Clues on the serve. Olivia Sophis here with the attack for the Huskies. Roxy Ducey digs it out. Krista Krautner over to Patty Shapansky. She just finds the line. Sterling Heights up 10-8. Then Chopak at it again. Deadly serve all season. Huskies had problems with it. Stallions take the first game with ease, 25-13. Then Melissa Wilson on the serve. Chantel Randall over to Alexis Getz. Krautner back to Chopak, and Chopak, look at the adjustment, changing her hands in midair and getting a kill with the opposite hand. Stallions up 3-2. Then off the Port Huron Northern attack, it's Wilson with the dig. Over to Krautner to Chopak with a right hand full extension on that one as she blasts it. 19-11, Stallions up. Then Wilson on the serve again. Sophis blocked by Chopak, has a postmark, return to sender. Stallions win the second game easily, 25-14. Third game more the same. It's Chopak and Sterling Heights putting away the Huskies, making quick work of them in 3. Chopak 18 kills, 13 digs in the win. Krautner 35 assists as the Stallions move on.
I'm very excited. Our team's really happy. This is kind of unbelievable to make it this far, and we're ready for it.
Greatest feeling. I can't even explain it. Like, we just kept playing through every single point, pushed through everything, and we're just happy that it's finally, like, we're going to finals.
Stallion fans fired up for state superpower Frazier in the regional finals. In Game 1, Maria Leone over to Casey Kelly, but Sam Clues there with the dig, and it finds the right spot. Sterling Heights off to a nice start. Then Doozy on the serve. Leone over to Kelly. But look at Krista Krautner get up and get the big block. Sterling Heights up 11-5. Then Devereaux Bouchane on the serve. Krautner to Chopak, and Sterling Heights comes out swinging. 25-16, they take the first game. On to Game 2, Sam Clues on serve receive. Doozy with the attack from the back row, but Madison Frodel there to block it. Melissa Kreitzer's team up 13-9, or actually down 13-9, but they come all the way back and beat Sterling Heights 26-24 after that Kelly kill. In Game 3, Chopak starts out with an ace. 3 straight aces for her. Stallions up 7-5. Then Allie Van Overmeer over to Kelly, puts it down. Frazier takes the third game, 25-19, as the Stallions squander a lead for the second game in a row. Then in Game 4, it's Krautner to Chopak. Again, Sterling Heights off to a good start, up 16-10. Then Chopak with the ace. Stallions take Game 4, 25-17. We would go to a 5th and deciding game. Stallions were here 2 years ago, couldn't pull it out. Would they do it this time? Early on, it's Krautner to Chopak with the kill. Sterling Heights with the early 5-3 lead. But Frazier was just too tough. Van Overmeer with the serve. Krautner over to Chopak. It's blocked by Frodel. And Frazier is your regional champs as they take it in 5 games, winning the 5th 15-10. Chopak 21 kills, 33 digs in the losing effort. Stallions finished with 41 wins.
High-class program. They've been here before, and that gives them a decided advantage. But I also think that we gave them more than they expected to handle out of us at this point, and I'm very, very proud of the girls for keeping the intensity up through a 5-set match.
We're joined now by our favorite Christmas elf. It is the holiday season, so Kevin Lozon. You didn't wear green, but thanks for dropping in.
The way the Sparties played this year, I must have made a mistake tonight. But that's okay. We're not here for the Sparties. We're here for our great athletes from this area and their accomplishments that they had on the field.
Great year for really good year for our fall sports teams. We had a quality year in volleyball, great year in soccer, and maybe not the usual suspects doing well in football, but good year from some of our teams.
It's amazing how the few teams that we cover all have such great success. And we are so blessed around here with some great players and some great coaches and some great teams. It's fun. It's fun to go out and do the job that we have to do each and every day.
Exactly. And it's fun to prove you wrong on your Player of the Year award winners.
In one sport.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start out with volleyball. What do you got? Start at 4 and work your way up to 1.
My fourth place volleyball was Katie Verbata from Ford. I thought that as a returning player, she really showed the leadership from a Ford team that lost a lot pretty much from last year. So I had her fourth. I picked Megan White from Stevenson. Third, for somebody who hadn't set pretty much throughout her whole career, to set the school record this year as a setter, I thought was just outstanding. And she broke the record of Kristen Kopicki, who went on to play Division II volleyball this year. So I had her third. The top two, second place, Roxy Doozy. What more can we say about her over her 4 years at Sterling Heights? Maybe the best defensive specialist, libero, that I have ever seen.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
She just, there were shots that she had no business getting to, and she just made it look so easy. So, I mean, she could have been number one, but how can you not go with Kate Chopek, her teammate? Kate was by far the most dominant player in our area this year. She proved it on the court. Between her and Roxy and the rest of the cast that Coach Wachterhauser had, went all the way to the regionals this year. You know, fell against a tough Fraser team in the finals. But Kate Chopek, I mean, 502 kills. Come on, that's unbelievable. 97 aces, 567 digs, 78 blocks, 7 school records for her career. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it says a lot about her. My top 4 were similar, a little different, but I thought the top 3 for me was pretty easy. I thought the top 3, for my mind, were kind of solidified, and then there was kind of a race for that number 4 spot. I could have gone with White, as you said. I could have gone with Demi Sutter, the libero for Mott, who's been overshadowed this year. Kelsey Kopicki was another one who was in the running right there. She had a nice season. But my number 4, you talk about the year that Sterling Heights had, and for all the attention the top 2 girls got, I thought Krista Krautner really had an excellent year. I talked about the season that Megan White had breaking the school record at Stevenson. Krautner very quietly broke the school record at Sterling Heights, had nearly 200 more assists than White. And really, when you look at it, Sterling Heights hardly played any 5-game matches this year. I think Coach Wachterhauser commented in their final game that was only the second time all year they had played 5 games in a match. So she was doing all that with fewer games played compared to White if you put them head to head. But I thought she just was excellent. She was very mobile. She could get to a lot of balls, and she could also challenge at the net. Even though she's only 5'7", she would get up there and block some attacks. So she had a great year for them. So she was my number 4. Number 3, Katie Verbata was dominant. She might be the most versatile player that we covered this year. Over 400 kills for Ford on a Ford team that was really kind of up and down this year. But
she had also a lot of 5-game matches.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. But she does a lot of things very well. She's incredibly athletic, a little bit inconsistent at times. You saw her hit it into the net a few times, but I mean, she's their second setter. She's their leading kill person. She was the leader in digs. She she drove the bus. She did pretty much everything for them.
Bus?
Well, maybe not yet, but maybe that's next year because she's only a junior. Probably the top. She is definitely the top underclassman coming back. And then number 2 for me, Roxy Doozy, as you said, the best libero we've ever covered. I think it's pretty hands down. And I think with Roxy, what you saw a little bit this year, I think she probably had a better year last year all around. I think coaches were saying, hey, opposing hitters, let's try and hit it away from her. And they did try to do that, not always successful, because she covers a lot of ground back there and places herself well.
But she also had Kate Chopak next to her.
Yes.
And who's your number one?
Yeah, obviously the slam dunk was Kate Chopak, who's one of the most exciting players I think we've ever covered. Just excellent for 4 years. But this year she was just off the charts. The number that jumps out at me with Chopak is that we talked about how accomplished Doozy was. Kate almost had as many digs as she did, and you think of her as a hitter. I mean, she's incredible. She did everything well. She had an excellent serve, arguably the best serve in the area. She's one of the best defensive players in the area. Definitely the best attacker in the area. Probably top 3 all-time volleyball players I've covered. So.
And she's 6 foot tall.
Yes. And long and lean, and I mean, she hits that ball, it moves, and opponents were well advised to duck. But as the winner, no surprise here, Kate Chopak is the Player of the Year award winner, getting the most possible points you can, 60 points. Doozy finishes second. Demi Sutter, the libero from Mott, who we mentioned, finished in third. Megan White of Stevenson, the setter, finished fourth. Froboda finishes fifth. Kelsey Kapicki, who we mentioned, finished sixth. Meg Getch of Utica, their middle hitter, seventh. Then a three-way tie for eighth with Krautner, her teammate Kristen Hartner, who was a good middle for them, and Brianna Baker, the Ford libero, who was really excellent in the limited time she got in at libero. She had some injury problems, and she wasn't a full-time libero. She's going to be a good one moving ahead as well. Football, go.
My number 4 in football was Cassell Baker from Warren Mott, the running back. I was able to see him on 2 occasions this year. What he did against Stevenson the first time I saw him was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
He might have ran for 5,000 yards
He's
that night.
still
I
out
don't
there,
know.
I think, running.
I think he is. Stevenson still hasn't caught him. And then I saw him later in the year, and this is where he got my 4th place vote, was the game against Eisenhower. Arguably the best defense in Macomb County. I had 11 guys going after him that night, and he still was able to get, I think it was 110 yards on about 23 carries or something like that. But powerful runner, not the shiftiest guy, but once he got in the open field, he could go. So I had him 4th. Shane Van Fletteren from Utica was my 3rd choice. Did it all as a wide receiver and in the secondary for the Chieftains. I thought he just had an outstanding year. 2nd place was Adrian Harris from Utica. Another kid who just goes out and hits, and he was fine as a running back. What more can you say about him?
Really a great leader for them. Excellent kid. Great
he stayed
makeup
healthy.
for,
He stayed healthy all year this year, and that was a big key. And my number 1, I like Mike Sava. I really thought that he was the catalyst to the resurgence of the Falcons this year. I thought he had a great year at quarterback. He brought the leadership skills that this team needed to make their playoff run. And that's who I had. He was my number 1.
Really a versatile guy. Guy could hurt you in a number of ways, too. All right.
And you?
I thought my number 1 was easy, but 2 through about 8, you could have, as we say, throw them in a hat. They were all very similar. I had a hard time. There were even guys on Sterling Heights who had good years with Abel Sullivan and John Sulik for Stevenson and Brad Pleck for Stevenson had very nice years. Warren Mott with 2 and 7, but they had a lot of kids with great years. But anyway, I agreed with you. Number 4, Cassell Baker. The impression when I watched him, it was just kind of like a man playing amongst boys. He was just tough. I thought he was incredibly shifty, power runner, didn't have great speed, but big legs, could change direction quickly. He ran hard on a team that was more of has kind of a finesse style. Mott is really a pass first kind of team. For the running back to have the year that he had, 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns. Yeah, he's still out there running against Stevenson. But he did that against a lot of opponents this year. He had a very consistent year. I know he had a good game against Dakota. He had that game against Eisenhower. He did well. He really played very well. He was a stud. He was also the leading sack guy in defense. He had 5 sacks on the D line, so a two-way player. And Farmington Hills Harrison's loss was Warren Mott's gain.
Exactly.
So excellent year for Cassell Baker. And then number 3 for me, I went with Eric Posovitz. Another
worthy choice. I'll give you that
two-way,
one.
all-around guy. Really excellent hands, great vertical threat on a Ford team that historically hasn't liked to throw the ball a whole lot. But this year, when you have a weapon like Posovitz kind of sitting out there, you can't let him go to waste. And excellent hands, over 50 catches, over 830 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was also their leader in the secondary, 4 picks. So, doing it both ways. He had a couple games where he got shut down. Utica shut him out. He got shut down against Dakota, only 1 catch in the 2 games. But in the playoff game, he contributed in other ways.
Yeah, funny thing is, very unselfish player.
Yeah.
I remember Coach Winters telling me after the Dakota loss in the playoffs that Eric came up to him and said, hey, look for someone else. They're double teaming me. And he did what he could.
Right.
But, very unselfish player. You don't see that of a lot of high school kids these days.
Yeah, the kick return for a touchdown that game. They even got him the ball on an end around. But, just great, another great makeup kid. My number 2 was Mike Saba. I thought, like you, had an excellent year. Just a great threat, with his legs, with his arm. We talked about Ford being historically a run team, and last year he was a lot like Adam Blackwood that was there a few years ago. But he developed into more of a thrower this year and really had a nice year, 19 touchdowns, only 12 picks, completed 58% of his passes, which is nice, just 1 yard short of 1,800 yards. And then with his legs, another 400 yards on the ground and 11 touchdowns. So, the thing that caught me about him is he does it effortlessly. He looks like he's sometimes not going full speed out there, but tacklers had a hard time bringing him down. He just do a little twitch with his hips, and they just kind of melt off of him. And he had a run against Stevenson at the end of a half, which was incredible.
That's why you should have put him number 1 like I had.
Well, I liked him, but excellence on one side of the ball for me versus excellence on 2 sides of the ball. I thought my number 1 was easy. Not everyone agreed with me, but I thought Shane Van Fletteren
a lot of people didn't agree with you.
Was the clear number 1, and I'm going to make the case for Shane.
And I agree with you with Shane. The kid had a great year. There's no doubt about it. But as we'll see later, go ahead and make your case.
Oh, yeah, that you're right. Is that what you're trying to say? Well, we'll see that neither of us are right, actually. Now, Van Fletteren had 75 catches. The next closest wide receiver on Utica had 19. It tells you who they were going to, and opponents knew they were going to him. Great weapon offensively, over 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns on offense. Defensively, over 100 tackles and 3 picks on defense. So he did on both sides of the ball. When he faced Posovitz, who I had in my top 4, he shut out Posovitz. So he really dominated, in control, and he really was their go-to guy. When things got rough, they looked to Shane Van Fletteren to make a play. And that's who I thought the best player was, hands down. But the winner, first that's ever happened, not in either of our top 4, but it doesn't make him an unworthy kid. Connor Heimbaugh is the winner. Got 3 first-place votes from coaches and a second-place vote.
You may want to introduce where Connor Heimbaugh is from, because obviously you and I haven't talked about him yet.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
He is the Utica quarterback.
The Utica quarterback, yes, correct. And the son of Mark Heimbaugh, who works at Shelby TV and has helped us out from time to time. But Connor had a great year. Last year he threw for a lot more yards. They had a little different role for him this year. They basically said, we have enough around you. We prefer you to manage the game a little more. And Connor wanted to win more than anyone, maybe ever, and was willing to be unselfish and selfless and give up, the big stats for victories. He still had a nice year statistically. 17 touchdowns, only 10 picks. Here's the number that jumps out at you. 64.5% completion percentage.
That's almost Phillip Rivers type completion.
Yeah. Very accurate. We're talking, for Casa rarefied air. Actually, that's better than for Casa, I believe. Almost 2,000 yards passing, was a threat with his legs, almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. played on the other side of the ball too, had a pick and 23 tackles on defense, and just was an excellent leader. We talk about Adrian Harris's makeup for Utica.
Shane Van Flutteren.
Yeah, Shane Van Flutteren. But Harris and Heimball were really their leaders in terms of getting kids to, listen to coaches and really embrace the team concept. So congratulations to Connor, though. The rest of the finishers, Van Flutteren finished second. Saba was third. Harris finished fourth. Then Cassell Baker. Then Eric Posovitz. Then John Sulik, who was Titans' all-time leading tackler, may have had an even better year, but was really missed 3 games with knee injury and came back and wasn't 100%. Connor Harvey, tough year with turnovers, but really showed some flashes. If he would have had more than just a senior year, you think he may have developed into really something outstanding at Stevenson. Robbie Korthals, the offensive lineman for Utica, tied with Harvey. Horace Lane, unsung, kind of quiet running back at Sterling Heights, who had a nice year, even though they were trailing a lot of the time. It didn't get to use him enough. Abel Sullivan,
Great year.
Stat of the year for me, 9 blocked kicks.
Unbelievable.
One season by one kid. Teams not do that in a 5-year span. Yeah, exactly. And then Aaron Cox, another guy who went both ways and was outstanding. 7 sacks, 85 tackles, played some quarterback, played tight end, ran the ball, did a lot for them. Finished his tied for 11. So
and
now soccer, soccer was tough.
Oh,
we could have people left off the top
almost.
4. Oh yeah, you could have left people that didn't make our top 4. You could have made a top 4 list out of them and stack them up against other years and have them be better than other years.
Oh, no doubt
top 4.
about it. What a great year for soccer.
Yeah.
My top 4, which any of these guys could have been number 1, but number 4 I had Adkins Jeff Adkins from Utica. Great season, 26 goals, 12 assists. He was their playmaker. He was getting double teamed 90% of the time. Teams that didn't double team him obviously knew nothing about Utica.
Right. And paid for it.
And led him to the MAC White Division Championship. Third, I had Nathan Steinwasser from Stevenson. What more can you say? They call him Sarge for a reason because he restores order in the back row. And he could be a goalie. He could have been a forward. Wherever you put him on the field, he could have been a dominant force. People just didn't mess with him. And so he was my number 3. Second was Mario Marana, the goal-scoring machine for Sterling Heights this year. 33 goals, school record. 6 assists. Kid just had an outstanding season. It just seemed like the ball and the net and his toe were all in line all the time. And my number 1, and boy, I was shuffling up until the state tournament. And once the state tournament started and they got to the regional, Mike Mendola took over. And the goalkeeper from Stevenson was unbelievable. Even in the championship game, they lost 6-0.
Everyone knows.
It could have been 12-0 if it hadn't been for Mike Mendola. He was outstanding. He stood on his head. I was watching one of your recent Timeout shows, and it was against De La Salle. And
you were our viewer. Okay, good.
And 4 saves, 8 saves, 12th save. And he made it look easy. And I picked him number 1 because I think Stevenson doesn't make the state finals without Mike Mendola.
I'll agree with you there with that. They had a different guy. They had so many talented players, and the playoffs for them kind of had a different guy step up every game. I was a little different in soccer than you. I had Steinwasser number 4. I agree with you. Kind of like an offensive lineman gets looked over, and a libero a lot of times in volleyball. Your sweeper, stopper position, because they don't rack up the goal-scoring stats, and they're not facing shots like the goalie. They're a little unsung back there, but he was the leader of that team. Bob Mondu said that's the best leader he's ever had, which is pretty high praise because Mondu's had some very good teams at Stevenson and good leaders. So that says a lot. He really kept the team in line. A lot of ways, he was an assistant coach out there. I think Nate was also his teammates got along with him very well. He was kind of the head as the Jonah Crispin thing unfolded during the year, and he passed away. Nate really is the one that kind of took that bull by the horns and kept Jonah at the forefront. His little brother Spencer, obviously very close to Jonah, as was Nate, but he was their leader. 5 goals, 4 assists, not bad from the sweeper spot, anyway. But excellent season for a guy who's very talented and will be a great college player. My number 3, I had Jerome Cristobal. Obviously played on the national team, so he had all the hype in the world coming back. Had a very nice season, 17 goals, 4 assists. Great playmaker. Bob Mondu kind of said he was kind of this pit bull terrier thing when he was a little freshman, because he's very fierce out there. The one thing that that caused me to maybe downgrade Jerome a little bit. First of all, he had a little trouble finishing this year. He could have had 25, 26 goals, up there with these other guys, but a little trouble finishing. But some of the, extra stuff, you're a great player. You can let other people tell you you're good. You don't have to. The dance after every goal, and he got a card in the playoffs and had to miss a playoff game, which is, maybe he didn't deserve the card, but you still have to. You have
keep your emotions in check.
Keep your emotions in check, and I think he'll get better at channeling that. And he knows that. He's obviously an incredibly intelligent soccer player and knows where the ball has to be. Very versatile. They'd move him to the back. They'd keep him up front. But a gifted player and only a junior, too. So I had Jerome Cristobal number 3. Number 2, Mario Marana. Not the most skilled player. Probably not the most skilled player on his team. Derek Nowak, Gavin O'Gara, Ryan Kreider, probably more skilled than Mario. But holy cow, you said it. A knack for scoring goals. I mean, we talk about the skill of Jerome Cristobal, 17 goals. Mario had 33. Breaking Kyle Lepkevich's school record, and Lepkevich was a great player.
I think there was a stretch of 4 games where he had a hat trick in each game.
Yeah.
And it was almost funny when Coach Latoya would call me and I'd say, "So what? You had another 3 goals today?" "Yeah, he had 3 today." It was just like you expected it after a while.
And at some point, if you're like the opposing team, even if you don't play Sterling Heights, his name jumps out at you in the paper. Yeah, exactly. Put someone in front of him. But people would do it. And he just had the very underrated knack of putting shots on net. He didn't sail hardly anything over the crossbar or wide. It was on goal almost every time. Off of a header, off of his feet. Just a great knack for scoring goals. Obviously, you don't get to 33 by accident.
Exactly.
So. And then my number 1, I took Jeff Adkins. I thought Adkins was really the combo of superb talent, like Jerome Cristobal, but also had a superb year, like Mario. 26 goals, 12 assists. So point-wise, he was just 1 shy of Mario. He not only can score goals for himself and take over games by himself, which he did against Sterling both times, but he sets up other players, just as well. So I thought he was just outstanding. He didn't have the talent around. He had good talent around him, but not the talent that Jerome had around him. Stevenson, we didn't even mention the Martirana brothers, and they'd be top 4 in another year.
Exactly.
So the winner, barely, and I mean barely.
This is close.
Yeah, nearly a tie. Adkins is the player of the year. In top 5, it tells you how good soccer was in the area. Top 5 are all right up against each other. Adkins number 1, Cristobal finishes 2nd, Marana finishes 3rd, just 1 point back of Cristobal. Steinwasser is 4th at 24 points. Then Mendola at 21. Then you get a fall off, not in talent of players, just people had to pick someone. Kozlowski, Evan Kozlowski, the goalie from Ford, who, if they could have scored any goals for him this year, we'd be talking about him a lot more. Gavin O'Gara, nice year at Sterling Heights, 8 goals, 13 assists. Derek Nowak, who's going to play at OU, great year, 10 goals, 12 assists. He finished in 8th. And Chris Wolowski, the forward from Ford, maybe the only Ford player that really scored much this year, finishes tied for 8th. But
so now I guess the big question is, can we duplicate this winter in basketball?
Oh, and have it's going to be a toss-up, especially if you look, actually really both.
Yeah.
It's fairly wide open for boys and girls basketball, even though we have the winner returning for girls in midday, but we will see.
But one thing is for sure, we have a ton of talent in this area, boys and girls basketball.
It will be fun to watch. And we will bring those highlights to you on our next edition of Sports Timeout. For Kevin Lozon, I'm Anthony Paladano. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Oh,